Welcome to the It's Time to Wow 'em show. I am here with Julian. He is an Airbnb host, and this is another episode of Mastering the Guest Experience. We're going to chat about his Airbnb, how long he's been a super host, all those things. We're just going to dive right in. And Julian, how long have you been an Airbnb host?
Thanks for having me on here. I've been an Airbnb host for this property. I've had it for 4 years now, but
Okay.
I also kind of when I first got into the Airbnb space, my mom had a property and I was kind of helping her with that, so I learned a lot during that process. So I've been doing it for maybe 6 years or so, like just kind of learning about it. And before then, my mom was, she rented her cottage occasionally. So it wasn't through Airbnb. That was when, way back in the day when Flipkey was around, which was kind of
Oh,
the precursor to Airbnb
yeah.
and these home sharing platforms. So
Yeah.
I've 4 years of active management.
Awesome. Awesome. And you have superhost status, do you?
Yes, that was very important to get the superhost status as quickly as possible and hold on to that. That's the other key.
Yeah. And so what did you do? Like, what was your strategy to kind of get superhost status, like ASAP kind of thing?
So the first thing I did was I reached out to my friends and family. I said, hey, we have an Airbnb. Um, do you want to stay at it? Airbnb offers the option where you can offer a discounted rate to people. So I would essentially say, hey, like any of friends or family or extended, do you want to come here, check it out? Extremely reduced price, like pretty much free, as low as I possibly could get it, and just to get that feedback from people at first, just saying, what they liked about it, what they I could use improvements on, and because they're my friends and family, they're not going to leave a 1-star review, but you're also building up that experience at the same
Yeah.
time. So getting a few reviews like that, and then after getting those reviews, really making sure that the pricing that I had matched what the quality and experience of what I could offer. So the goal was always to make sure the value that I was delivering was way above the price that the guests were paying. So,
Right.
in the beginning stages, I was priced very, very cheaply because I wanted people, when they came in, to really feel like, wow, I got a great deal, like 5-star review.
Yeah. Everybody wants that, right? They want to be able to get the best bang for their buck, especially when they're traveling, right? So the fact that you're going to, deliver the unexpected and give them all the great things for such a good price there, and that also um allows them or gives them the opportunity to want to come back, because they're going to be like, well, and the thing is if you were to increase your price, but you've noticed that these are people who are returning, so you can give them a discount or something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did that strategy where the original guests, as I increased the price, I would kind of honor their price, and they wouldn't be, they won't have to pay the higher fee kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great idea. So they kind of lock in their price in a sense.
exactly. My Airbnb is a little unique in that there's 3 properties or 3 houses on the property.
Okay.
So um we cater to large groups who want to stay. And when I first started, I just got one house up on Airbnb, and then then once the second house was ready, I added the second house and added the third house. So uh, in the beginning years, I only was managing one, but I've gotten to the point now I have all 3 on, and I used to rent them out separately, but I've kind of shifted. So now I'm only really renting out all 3 at a time, and
Right.
that's just to larger groups. And that's just something, you know, I've learned that that's kind of my competitive advantage. That's what makes
Yeah.
me unique in the space. So
Well, it's kind of nice too. It's unique in the sense that if you're traveling with a couple of families or something, then you guys can all have your own space still, and then but still be able to, still have that oneness of the experience, which is kind of nice. Where is your property located?
we're in the countryside. We're kind of between Campbellford and Stirling, so about half an hour north of Belleville. It is in the countryside, so I mean, in terms of location, up north there's kind of like a cottage country area, but I would say we're quite farmy in the areas. You know, beautiful rolling countryside. You're out in the middle of nature. So that's the people who come here are looking for that type of experience, a countryside getaway.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Trent Hills is such a beautiful place. It's such a serene, just very quaint place just for relaxation and all that stuff. So, do you have Wingfield Inn and Gardens is what your Airbnb is called? Have
Yep,
you went and bought that domain?
I do. I have my website, Wingfield. I have it as wingfieldgardens.com. So
Oh, perfect.
that's the
Awesome.
website if you want to check it out. But yeah.
Amazing, amazing. I always make sure I mention that because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I never thought of that." So what do you feel are the key elements to making your Airbnb stay memorable?
So there's kind of like I think there's two tiers to look at it. One is like kind of the basic tier, which is like you're avoiding negative reviews. So making sure you have good cleaning, making sure that things are operating well, there's not going to be any issues. You've kind of thought about things that people will want or that they might get that might lead to a negative review. So if like, you forgot you have a bunch of things that you've left out in your Airbnb and there's not enough dishes or there's not enough this or anything that during their stay they'd kind of have to contact you and say, hey, we're missing something. I mean, unfortunately, that's always going to happen. So, especially at the beginning stages. So
Yeah,
the other thing I really implemented was just being really just
apologetic.
available at all times. So,
Yeah,
if there's an issue, you are dealing with it within
minute.
15-20 minutes
Yeah,
of it. Like, you're saying to your guests, I'm here, I want to make your experience a positive experience. And most people really appreciate that. And they say, they can look past some smaller things. So that's
right.
been a really key thing, just, really caring about your guests' experience. You
Yeah,
don't, if you're getting into Airbnb and you're thinking, oh, this is great, easy, passive
yeah,
income, you might want to stick with long-term renters. So
yeah. Yeah, the experience itself is it's such a creative, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but it's like such a creative process, right? Like where you have to think and immerse yourself in the perspective of the guest and going like before they even arrive, what are we doing to make them excited, make them feel welcome? Are they prepared? Then during their stay, right? Like what are we doing during their stay to go above and beyond? And then post stay, some people just hope that they get a review and move on to the next guest, but there's such an actual like really great opportunities there to take advantage of and to learn how to nurture those guests so that they do come back and so that they do become an advocate for you as well. Because I know you've listened to the show before, and I've talked about Golden Lake, Greystone on Golden Lake. I talk about it to everybody because I just love their Airbnbs. They're amazing. There's like a number of different little cabins, and I'm constantly telling people about it. So you want your guests to do the same thing. You want your guests to go and tell their friends, "Hey, So we were just here with our family, but I think we need to have a girls' weekend or a mom's weekend this coming fall. Let's book something for all the girls. And then maybe the dads do one too or something. You know what I mean? You want to create that advocacy and that repeat and return guest experience for them. Okay.
Yeah, and I've been striving to do that kind of stuff as well. I mean, there's definitely so many tools and different strategies that you can use to try and achieve that. And I know for me, it was definitely not something, it's not intuitive all the time. So, I mean, being able to have some resources and also being able to like kind of look things up and see how others have done things has been, really important. Like, for example, just even when you're like when the guests leave, just simply asking for a review, like
Mhm.
that. I never did that before, because the
They're just
original
gonna
thought
do
is,
it.
if they like it, they'll leave a review, and I'm happy with that. But not everyone thinks about it. They've had a nice time. It's not top of mind for them to
Yeah.
leave you a review, even though it's so important for your business. So
Yeah.
just, gently, reminding them and letting them know, like, hey, a 5-star review is vitally important for
My
hosts on
success.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
And, we'd really appreciate it if, you think we deserve a 5-star. So.
Yeah, yeah. And one of my most famous quotes that I love is, if you don't ask, the answer is no, right? So if you're not asking, then you're not getting. So you might as well ask. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain to me or us maybe something that you do that's special prior to them arriving, and then something that you do while they're there, and then something that you do potentially after they've departed or about to depart?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm always kind of working on this process, so I never think, oh, I've got all the answers. I know what I'm like, this is it. I've reached the top. So I'm
Yeah.
always trying to improve, and I know there's tons of areas where I can improve. So before they show up, I have the automated messages. So I mean, right when they book, there's a welcome message saying, thanking them for booking with me. Here's some just general information about your stay and that kind of stuff. And then I ask for their email address because I have a manual that I've done up in Canva, so it's like kind of a nice graphics and stuff like that. And I send that to their email address so that they have that. And I also have their actual contact information. So um, I love Airbnb, but it's kind of like what they say, building a business on leased land, or
Yeah.
you don't own everything that's on Airbnb. So capturing their email and being able to start that
Very
direct
important.
relationship with them is really a good start. Um, so I that's what I do. I try and do that. Send them the guest manual as clear instructions on what they're expecting, a message, a few days before they show up, just to say, hey, we're excited to see you. Making sure that I'm answering all their questions very quickly. So, if they're asking about how many bedrooms there are, or because I deal with large groups, sometimes people want to come in and actually look at the property before booking. So, being open to that, just saying, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I'd love to give you a tour. Come on by, take a look. They know what they're getting into before they book, because, some people need that extra reassurance.
Right.
Um, so that's kind of I'm sure there's more things I would like to add in the messaging,
Oh, for
but
sure.
you know, that's
Well,
what
we're
I've
going to
got to
work
say.
together at some point, so I will make sure that I add the little wow factors into the mix of what you're already doing that's successful. And what about during their stays? Well, I mean, I guess you kind of did cover that. You're basically available there for them while they're there, and you're
Yeah,
very, very quick to respond to any needs or anything. Um, is there anything specific that you have found that people comment about that they're like, I really, really like this, or I really appreciated this?
Yeah, so I am a gardener at heart. So I mean that's like what drew me to the countryside. I did gardening beforehand, and once I got this property, which is 5 acres, I was like, oh my God, I could go to town. I
Yeah.
want to plant the whole 5 acres with gardens. So I kind of went crazy with my gardening. And that's one thing that I think sets me apart a little bit. Like I have massive gardens right on the entrance, and I really want to create that like serene countryside feel. So
Yeah.
lots of people love the gardens. We have a pool, lots of space. People like the amenities that are on the property. I really try and go above and beyond for like a little gift basket for when they show up.
Okay.
So in our area, there's a local craft brewery. I go there and I get a selection of beer for them. Empire Cheese is like a local institution in this
Yeah.
area. Everybody, loves the
Staple.
fresh cheese curds. So I leave the fresh cheese curds out for them. I try and I have a curated list of places for them to go. So there's different like the Buffalo Farm that's really fun to visit. Suspension Bridge in Campbellford, which is kind of a unique experience.
Yeah.
Just if they've never been in the area, really trying to like
Give them a full
showcase.
experience.
Yeah, yeah, I want them, like, when I first came to the area, because I moved here from Toronto, a lot of people are coming from out of the area, they don't know it, and the countryside's beautiful, but there is lots of cool and interesting things to do around here, but they're not always super easy to find. It's not like,
If you're
in
not a local, you
Toronto.
may not know, right?
Yeah, we're in Toronto, there's blog posts about it and lists and, the coolest place to go and stuff like that. And it's a little bit more of a treasure hunt here, but I mean, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to ask, and I know I'm asking this on the call, but do you have floor plans of your Airbnbs?
I don't, and that's one thing I would like to implement.
Yeah, I will hook you up with that because I think I know it obviously is time consuming for you when they want to come and view the property prior to, but I totally understand them wanting to see that. But if you were to invest in a floor plan and a virtual tour, that kind of eliminates that commitment of you having to do that. So that's just a thought.
I'd love to, yeah. And people who maybe look at it and they're like, I don't know, and then they just move off. But if there's the floor plan there and they
Yeah.
could see, oh wow, this is really big, this is
And the way
perfect.
that it's laid out, and because I know for me as a realtor, even like when I'm looking at a property, it's such a pet peeve. I'm like, why don't they put the floor plans? It's just so much easier to navigate. Like I'll look at the floor plans first and then I'll look at the pictures and I'll go, oh, okay, this makes sense. And this flows nice. Um, do you prior to your guests arriving, do you do any type of, I know you're contacting them, but do you have any type of like intake survey questions that they're answering other than giving you their contact information? Are you asking them like, are you celebrating anything special or anything like that?
I don't have like a questionnaire that I send them. Generally, people tell me a little bit at the very beginning why they're showing up. So, hey, we're here for an anniversary, or like because it's a large property,
Yeah.
usually there is some sort of special event. So we get a lot of birthdays. We're coming up for this or that. So that is something I could be, I think, improving on because I'm aware of what they're doing here, but then I don't necessarily
Do
I'm
anything to
not.
like complement to that, right? Like if it's somebody's birthday and it's Julian's birthday, you can literally get like a big sign. You know those like signs that are outside of businesses that are chalkboards? You could be literally just be
Yeah,
like, happy birthday, Julian, like, or happy 50th or whatever, right? Like something, because I find the personalization of that stuff is just it just ups it that much more, right? Because people remember that because especially if your name, like as a human, that is one of the most important words in the world to us, right? Is our name. So I feel like that's a wow statement, right? Because you're like, wow, that's so cool. Because as I mentioned before on the show, like when we arrive at Golden Lake, they do have these little chalkboards that say welcome Michelle and Tim or whatever, right? Like it's just super cute and such a cool little touch.
I love that idea. I'm definitely going to be stealing that.
Yeah, go ahead. This is why I'm doing these, right? Like I'm not trying to roast you or your processes or anything like that. I mean, I want to get the information that is working for you, and then maybe mistakes that you made that you learned from, so that people who are listening are like, okay, I'm definitely like making sure I don't do that. Or because one of my guests, we had a bit of technical difficulties, and I haven't been able to post the episode. We're just gonna have to redo the episode because technical difficulties. But anyways, she did not know that if you, because so she wanted to get Superhost status right away as well, and she had somebody that booked that wanted to cancel, so she canceled it, and that was like big, like do not do that. Like you have to recover, like that's a recovery process after you do something like that, I guess. So that was a big
Yeah,
she had learned.
yeah, they are extremely strict on certain parameters like that. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And I like the Airbnb stuff does tend to be the support stuff is pretty nice. But there's almost like a catch 22 where if you don't have superhost status, like, or if you haven't been on the platform for very long, they, I, they'll help you out, but I don't think like if you've been on the platform for 5 years, you've brought Airbnb X amount of bookings, like you are their client and they love you for bringing them lots of bookings. So they're gonna, they'll not pull strings, but they'll help you through the problems that you're having and really, if there's some sort of crazy thing. But
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's really good. Um, okay, so is there anything that you have learned during your time as a host that you're like, that stands out, that you're like, people need to know this? If you're going to be hosting, don't do this.
yeah, there's tons. Like, I mean,
Give me
at
like
the
your
very
top
beginning,
two or top three.
top three, so many mistakes. How do I begin? I mean, when I first started my cleaning service, was not where it needed to be. I mean, I was trying to do this all kind of by myself, so I was running around trying to clean all the places and get everything ready, and I didn't really necessarily give myself enough time to do the changeovers, so that was really difficult. Just like
Stressful,
not
I'm sure.
realizing, wow, like this is a lot of work and I have a same day changeover. They're checking out at 11. The new group's coming in at 4. I have to get, you have to do all the laundry. I have to like the logistics around actually maintaining everything. There's definitely a learning curve to that. So at the beginning, it
Like
was
you're doing it
just
by yourself.
chaotic, disorganized. You forget things, and then people are like, why is this here? What's going on with this? Like, it doesn't look like this was cleaned. And then, it was just, that was those were good learning lessons because, like, they, your guests will tell you, like, this was not up to par kind of thing. And,
Yeah.
uh, those are some of the best lessons. They're the hardest to get, but
Yeah. Hardest to
like
swallow, I'm sure.
yeah, but they help you. You know where you need to focus your attention on. So
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have people in place now that help you, or are you still a one man show?
yeah, I have a cleaning service now. They're fantastic. They help out with the changeovers. They do things at a much higher standard that I would do them. And I've learned like you can't do everything yourself in this. Like you kind of have to lean on other people and get help when you need that help.
Yeah, for sure. Um, do you oh, I just had a question. And I've been writing notes because if I don't write it down, then I forget. Um, I don't know. It went out of my head. I can't think of what it was. It had something to do with like having people there helping you. Oh, that was the question. So do you still have same day turnovers, or do you have like a day in between?
I still have same day changeovers. I might revisit that in the future because it's still, even with the cleaning staff, like, because I'm still there helping out, it is kind of a hectic day. We've doing this longer, you kind of realize where your bottlenecks are. So, oh, it takes this long to make all the beds. It takes this long to mop and vacuum the floor. It takes this long to do the
Right,
laundry. And then you kind of realize, okay, like, oh, we've got everything done and we're waiting on this one load of laundry to be finished to be able to make the beds. Like, what are we gonna do? So
right,
then, oh, we bought, two sets of sheets or three sets of sheets. So then you're not waiting on the laundry to be done
right,
to be able to make the bed. So there's
right.
like a ton of little things like that that you kind of
Yeah,
you learn how to be more efficient because it is really it can be quite overwhelming at the
yeah,
beginning and just like you're you you don't know it until it hits you in the face and you're like, oh
yeah,
my God, this is uncomfortable.
yeah, for sure. Now, I'm still learning about the Airbnb system myself. So do you include your cleaning fee in your stay fee, or do you like add that on? Because you know how on some of the listings, like it shows the cleaning fee.
Yeah, I have it as a separate line. I know there are some people who don't like that. I find I'm because I'm such a unique property and people are getting three homes, there's
Yeah,
kind of a little bit more of an understanding, like, okay, there needs to be like a little bit of a cleaning fee, but I mean, I, I if so the other thing that I've kind of done in the past that's been really helpful for me is I have a like an internal policy on how I deal with people who haven't had a good experience or aren't happy with something because that was a lot of stress for me at the beginning because like you do everything, you get the house already, you're super proud and you've put all this effort in and then you get a negative feedback and sometimes it it rubs you the wrong way and like you're sitting with this feeling and I know I've seen on like kind of like communities and stuff like how do I deal with this, the guests complain about that, who's right, who's wrong, and like it becomes this big built up thing. So and I hate that. Like, and the conflict on that is like, no, like it kills me. Like, I wanted to make a good experience, so I just made it easier for myself. Like, I have a policy. Like, if anyone complains about something, like I automatically say, if something's dirty, here's a refund. For this inconvenience, I explain that my goal is to give you the best experience possible. I mean, some people are worried about oh, they're just complaining because they want a discount or something like that. But there might be that, and that's probably a smaller percentage of people than the people who will appreciate the gesture that, I'm giving a refund because I want you to have a good stay.
right.
And it's been amazing because now I don't have to think about it. It's like, okay, they complain, I refund. There isn't this weird like are
I
they
know.
justified? Are they not justified? Am I gonna fight this or not? It's just like
Yeah.
makes it easy.
Like you're putting out the fire before it kind of, you know what I mean? Like you're putting out the fire before they even leave, right? So it's dealt with before they're even gone. So it's kind of nice to be able to sort of put that out so that you can ensure that they're happy and they're satisfied and try to make
Yeah,
it right essentially. Where
and for myself.
yeah, and
The
I
internal stress.
yes, yes. And I know that getting that kind of feedback sometimes will create, that those hard feelings because you're like, well, what do you mean it? What do you mean it, it wasn't clean? Because we cleaned it, or, just silly things. But I
Yeah.
always say like feedback is the best, most golden rule, because if you're not getting feedback, you're not going to be able to improve. And if they don't leave you a review, then how do you even know what you need to, like, what you could do better, right? So I always recommend that you put a feedback system in place. Um, and then even just like a check-in during their stay, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, just want to check in. Is everything okay? I think as a guest myself, I would appreciate that, because that means that you care about my experience, right?
Yeah, I have a little story if you don't mind about that
Yeah.
kind of my worst, not worst, but like the feedback or guest experience. So when I first bought the property, there was a large metal fence going through the property, kind of dividing the different houses up. And the previous owners, this was actually an institution. So the fence had a big, large angle on it. So it kind of had not the most friendly vibe when you come through. And we hadn't gotten to the point yet of dealing with it because it was kind of a bigger infrastructure and we were really bootstrapping. We weren't like, we didn't have a ton of money just to sink a ton of money into it. We were just like, get it up and going small piece by small piece. And the review was like, it wasn't public, but they said, we really enjoyed the Airbnb, but the fence gives off Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes.
No.
But this was all private, and it really also then helped us like, okay, like, we really need to deal with this sooner than later. Like this, we know it's an eyesore, but like, the guests
Didn't
are
realize how much of an impact.
really underscoring how much, we need to deal with this, and then, just dealing with it, and then, it was done in a nice way because we asked for feedback. We wanted, we wanted to improve, so when we asked for feedback, how can we make it better? And giving the guests the permission to say like, something isn't great because it's not what you want to hear, but yeah.
Yeah, it's what you need to hear though, right? And that's the key. And even if you have even if you have something that you're like, not sure if they'll like this or not, ask them. Like,
Yeah.
we're really, you could say, we're really focused on the curb appeal and the, first impression of the property. What would you say that was for you? Was that a 5 out of 5 star, 4 star, 5 out of 5? Like, what was that? And if they're like, well, 4 star, and then you can go on and say, but so why? Explain how we can make this better. Maybe take your garden expertise and make it go all the way up or whatever, right? Like, so many different opportunities, but you are not going to get the answers unless you ask the questions, right? So I think that's a key element to making sure that you ask the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll wrap this up because this is a little bit, we're getting to our time. So what
Yeah.
advice would you give a new and aspiring host who wants to create an unforgettable experience for their guests?
I would say really just think hard about like what what you would like to have happen because you know that's going to be easier for you to work on. So if you're not like if you want to give a luxury experience, but that's not you as a person, and you're
Then
like
hire
doing all
somebody
these
like me.
things. Yeah, no, but if that's what you love and you're like, I know what luxury is, I know the thread count on all my pillows, I want that to be the thing that people care about, then I
Mhm.
think you should go towards that. But
Yeah.
if that's not your thing, like do the thing that you really have passion for. So like if you love to bake, like bake fresh sourdough bread for your guests and
Mhm.
tell them how much that's something that you love to do and it'll be easy for you to do it because you love to do it and your guests
Yeah.
will genuinely appreciate it because you're like this is some guests won't care but like at the
Yeah.
end of the day this is also your business so it needs to be sustainable and it has to be based on what you like to do as well so like
Yeah.
for me it's gardening. I know there's a lot of people who probably come in they're like yeah, the flowers are nice, yeah, whatever. But then the people who do really like the gardens are like, wow, this is unique, cool, like,
Yeah. Yeah. for sure. Now, I even was saying to somebody yesterday, I was like, now that we're coming into the fall season, even having like a little kit to do pumpkin spice lattes or something, upon arrival, and just having those, maybe don't have it made for them, but have it so that they can DIY, do it yourself kind of thing, right? And kind of give them that cozy excitement about fall, because I know Starbucks already has pumpkin spice out and it's still
Yeah.
August. But you know what I mean? Like you can, and we were talking about this earlier before the show, was, seasonally kind of intertwining different elements into this different seasons and making the experience different throughout the year, which, is a cool element to incorporate when you want to kind of wow your clients, or not clients, but your guests rather. Yeah.
And there's so many creative ways to do it. So it's like, what you like, yeah, I know pumpkin spice, like so many people, it's like that's pumpkin spice, like oh my God, like and like yeah, people love that. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Remind everybody how they can find your Airbnb.
Yeah, so you could look on wingfieldgardens.com. That's kind of my website. So you could also look up Wingfield Inn and Gardens on Google, and I should show up either on Airbnb or yeah, but I'll have my contact information. I'm on Facebook. I have an Instagram, but I don't really have lacking on the Instagram. But
It's
I'm
hard to
on the
do it all.
channels. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you hopping on today. Thank you so much. I love connecting with local people, especially. I definitely am going to check out your Airbnb. We'll definitely be doing some collaboration together. I'm happy to help you infuse any kind of cool wow elements into your stay. And yeah, I'm super excited to do that with you. So thank you so much for hopping on today.
Thank you for having me. I love what you do, and it's amazing that you're doing all the work that you're doing. So I
Well,
really appreciate that, and it's very motivating and inspiring. So thank you.
thank you so much.